Happy Southern Festival of Books from the Blount County Public Library. We reached the milestone of 100 years of library service in 2019. Can you guess which 3 photos are of our library, both past and present? We are big on celebrating our history. The murals included are tributes to our musical roots and 100 years of women's suffrage and Tennessee's place in history ratifying the 19th Amendment. Our surrounding. Our views and weather change about every 15 minutes, so it is never dull and always beautiful. Our community, a good yarn to tell, and a wonderful place to spin it. Blount County welcomes and supports. But don't take our word for it. After the festival, consider swinging by for a visit.
Hello, everyone. Guten Abend, buonasera, bienvenidos, bienvenue. Welcome, everyone, on behalf of Humanities Tennessee. If you're watching this on Facebook Live or YouTube and you want to ask questions during this session, you will need to either download the festival app or visit the streaming site via this link, www.humtn.org/SFB, stands for Southern Festival of Books. The official festival bookseller is the fabulous Parnassus Books. Humanities Tennessee staff will place the book buy links at the top of the chat. All the purchases of kits and any other book that you buy via Parnassus help to keep this festival free. It is a free nonprofit event that is supported in part by donations from individuals. If you appreciate this event and want to add your support, you can do so by visiting www.humtn.org. Festival staff will be posting the link to the donate page as well. Please be kind. Anyone making inappropriate comments in the chat will be removed. I am a princess with a brute squad. I am indeed New York Times bestselling author, storm chaser, and Saturday songwriter Aletha Kontis, and I will be your host this evening. This is a super special treat for me because I lived in Tennessee for about 10 years and volunteered for Southern Festival every single year. And as soon as I moved, I wasn't able to help anymore. So welcome to this crazy year where I get to help host Kit Rocha. And I'm very, very excited about this because it's not only one person, it is 2. Kit Rocha is the pseudonym for the author duo Donna Herren at Totally Donna and Bree Bridges at Mostly Bree. They are best known for their gritty and sexy dystopian Beyond series, and were the first indie authors to receive an RT Book Review's Reviewer's Choice Award. They currently live 3 miles apart in Alabama and spend their non-writing time caring for a menagerie of animals, some of whom we may make guest appearance, and crafting handmade jewelry, all of which is chronicled in their various social media accounts. And they are here for their newest release, Deal with the Devil. And I love this. There's so many fabulous things on this book. Meet the Mercenary Librarians. That's fantastic. How far would you go is also very fantastic. And this lovely, a full throttle read. I can't wait to see what happens next. This is by Janine Frost. So so many fabulous things about this book. It's wonderful to be able to hang out with you today. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, how are you? I'm good, I think.
I hope. So my first question before we get into the book is a personal question. Why Totally Donna, but only Mostly Bree?
You did Mostly Bree first, right?
My bio used to say, when we first started writing, I mean, we're kind of confusing. We started writing under a different pen name, Maura Rogers, and then we started Kit Rocha, but we're also Bree and Donna. So my Twitter bio used to say, I write under many names, but I'm mostly just Bree. And so I had to change my Twitter name when we switched pen names. And so I made it mostly Bree. And then Donna wanted to change hers a few years later, so she decided to become totally Donna. So
Yeah.
I
It
love
seemed
it.
to match.
It's fantastic. If people watching are not following them on Twitter, I highly recommend it. Do so right now. Okay, I have to ask, because you are friends and collaborators, and it's sort of a thing you have to ask, how do you both collaborate, and how has this insane year affected that?
Yeah, that's two questions right there. That's two. Communication is the biggest thing. Like, we have always had like very similar styles and wanted to tell very similar types of stories. And so that used to kind of play out in us, plotting together and sort of, using each other as a springboard to, bounce ideas around. And then we were finally like, let's just, write something together. And so that's what we did. I don't think that we, from what I have learned of other, author duos, we don't really work the way most people do. Most people will like trade back and forth, like bits and pieces of the book, chapters or sections or what have you. But we write like every single bit of it together, just like kind of throwing it back and forth sort of constantly. The only thing that we really divide up at all are administrative duties and characters. Each one of the characters, we learned pretty early on, we can't sort of throw those back and forth. It doesn't work. They sound unwell. They sound like, they don't have, full command of their own personality and sometimes even faculties. So we were like, no, we're going to have to divide them up. And so that's what we do. In an administrative sense, I do a lot of the, editing and whatnot. And Bree does, web stuff and marketing and things like that. So
divide and conquer.
Yeah.
So living close together doesn't have anything to do with it?
No, actually, when we started writing together, we lived about 40 minutes apart, I think.
Yeah.
Which is still close, I think, compared to a lot of, writers, but still.
Right.
The 3 miles apart, we actually can't write when we're in the same room.
Mm-mm.
We get distracted and we goof off. We plot sometimes, but we can't write. And also, I just can't write with her looking at me. Like, even though we write in Google Docs, sometimes I'm like, you have to go away. Don't watch me spell these words wrong.
True.
Write this sentence 7 times. So we actually only write from our separate homes, or if we have to write because someone's internet went out, like in different rooms in the same house.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. And you use Google Docs both at the same time?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow, that is so cool.
It is intense. I mean, you really have to not have any ego tied up in the story because someone is watching you and editing you basically line by line.
Yeah, like reading over your shoulder at the same time.
Yeah, which means...
But also with like full, no, you need to change that veto power.
Right.
So it does, I think it stops us from going down a lot of wrong paths. But also, you have to harden your self-esteem a little because you have to be able to type a sentence and someone go, no. And then you have to type it again.
No, that's wrong. Do it again.
So.
Wow. I'm fascinated. I want to try this now with one of my friends and just fail at it miserably because it sounds just chaotic and wonderful. That is
It is a bit chaotic, and it is wonderful.
Yeah, I think those are the perfect 2 words, chaotic and wonderful.
So neat. So speaking of something different, this sort of near SF dystopian is a little bit different than the romance you typically write. What inspired you? Because you are 2 yous, so it can't just be one person that goes, you know what I want to do? Something crazy. You both have to be on board for this.
It's actually not as, oh, sorry.
Who wants do this one. We're about to say the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's actually not as different as you might think, because it's set in the same universe as the Beyond series. It's just in a different place in the former United States. It's just a different aspect of the story that we wanted to tell. We've covered a lot of different, I guess, approaches to, you know, how people are rebuilding elsewhere. But we wanted really to get into how the aftermath of basically like the implosion of a country plays out in a different way. So, Bree, now you go.
Okay. Yeah, our first series that we wrote it's set after the same sort of apocalyptic event, and the country fractures. And we wrote about one part of the country that sort of fell into a theocratic dystopia. And so we wrote a series about that, and it was definitely sexier, and it was more romance driven. Most of the, you know, the conflict and the plot was driven by the romance. The character revelations and their growth was driven by the romance. And in this series, you know, we're dealing with a little bit of a technocracy. You know, evil tech corporations are the ones that they're sort of fighting this time. And it's still a romance. We still have characters who are falling in love and smooching and, you know, having sexy times in thunderstorms. But it's also, you know, almost as strong and almost as much of a driving, you know, force through the book is the heroine's relationship with her best friends, with her world, with herself, and her decision for what she stands for and what she's willing to fight for. So the romance arc isn't quite as strong, and it's a little more divided between the rest of the people. But honestly, it's not that different than the books that we've written before. And it was awesome that that Tor wanted to pick them up and really supports us being romancy and sci-fi-y. Because I think those two things go together great.
Absolutely. They, like you said, they drive the story. And absolutely, the characters are who you fall in love with to drive the story. And you talked about world building. Sometimes in SF, you can totally fall down the rabbit hole of world building. But this was built on a world you had already invented. But was it still a possibility to sort of fall down that hole of, but what about the economics of this color of coin or whatever? Like,
well, it was kind of creepy because when we first started this series, we built the world for the first time, you know, in 2012. And 2012 was a very different time than 2018. So when we went back to 2018 to sort of go back to the apocalyptic event and trace the evolution of a different part of the country and what impacted them and what changed it. I mean, 2018 was a lot closer to this apocalyptic event becoming a reality than 2012 was. And
not just chronologically.
Yeah, not just. It was sort of creepy that things had happened that in 2012 we had put in place as things that would have happened. And, you know, so the backstory is increasingly, and now in 2020, here we are this summer trying to promote this book that is about medical corporations getting too much power because they created vaccines for things. So let's hope this is not prophetic.
The next series is going to be about puppies and unicorns and rainbows.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Well, we've already decided.
You're very good at your jobs. I mean, when an author is prophetic is because they take what is given and project the possibilities. And here we are.
I would like to not do that anymore for a while.
Lots more romance in the world.
Yeah.
Would be a good thing.
Hope in the world. Let's do hope.
Were there any huge differences between the previous series and this one? I know you touched on it before, but you said they were very similar, except this one is more not character driven, but plot driven, right?
I think it's still character driven, but it's not quite as it's less, the heat level is lower. There's not quite as much sex driving, you know, personal revelations and stuff in the characters, and it's a little less the romance is certainly important and the characters drive the arc, but the characters don't just have a romance that drives it. It's their relationships with their best friends, with everybody in their community, which again is something that's sort of always been a part of our world building and our worlds. We love writing about best friends for obvious reasons. We think, friendship is awesome.
And very important in chaotic times. That's absolutely for sure. Are there any cameos from previous books that pop into this one?
There's a mention of something that has to do with the Beyond spinoff series, Gideon's Writers, and there's a bottle of booze that shows up. These are the only, so far.
You should tell them why the bottle of booze matters.
Easter eggs. I love it. Yeah. Is it non-spoilery? Can you let us know?
The Beyond series is about a gang of post-apocalyptic bootleggers who eventually take down a theocracy.
Right.
So the implication is their liquor has made it back to the East Coast at this point.
Across
all the way to Atlanta, Georgia. So that's our little Easter egg. But for the most part, you don't have to have read any of our other books to read this. It's a whole new setting, new characters. Even almost, it's not a new world, but it's a different part of the world that's very different culturally.
Right.
So it's just a little tidbit for the fans. That's always nice. I love those.
Little wink.
Yeah, for the people, if you know, you know.
Exactly. Okay, speaking of, I'm skipping my next question because I want to go straight to the dedication for Miss Bev, who we all know is the fabulous Miss Beverly Jenkins. At least I know because I have sat at the feet of Miss Beverly Jenkins and absorbed her wisdom. So do tell, I love dedications. And when you dedicated this to Miss Bev, it just really made me smile. So I would love to hear the story of how that happened.
Should I start, Donna? I didn't actually start it, so maybe I should tell the first part.
Yeah, I think that it's a you thing.
In 2018, I think it was in February, around that time. Actually, it was on Miss Bev's birthday, as she told me later. We were thinking, we had been self-publishing for a decade at that point, I think. And we had agents and editors talk to us, but we were really happy with what we were doing. But, 2018, we were getting tired. We were thinking, okay, maybe we would like someone to, turn our words into books and we don't have to do it. So we had looked at agents, and I am lucky enough to be Twitter buds with the fabulous Beverly Jenkins. And so I sent her a message and I asked her if she knew, because what do you do when you are a best-selling author, who's sold 250,000 books, but do you have to write a whole new book to query an agent? Like, what do you do? I didn't know. So I asked her, what do you think your agent would want? Would she be okay with a proposal for us? Or do you think she'd want us to write a book? And she was like, well, I'll go text her. And so she texted her agent.
Stand by.
Like, oh gosh, I hadn't talked to Donna yet. And I was like, oh no, this is escalating quickly. So I ran to Donna. I was like, I accidentally started something. And about 10 minutes later, she texted back, and it turned out that one of Nancy's agents at her agency was a huge fan of our books. She had all of our self-published books on her phone, and she showed them to Nancy, and she said, I want to talk to them. So we talked to her the next morning, and she had a great plan for us. She had a vision for our series and what she could do with it and who she could sell it to. And so, within 24 hours, we signed with an agent. 2 months later, she went out on proposal. 12 days later, she sold the series to Tor.
Wow.
So,
it was kind of wild.
And it happened on Miss Bev's birthday. So she said that, that was her birthday present to us. Everybody gets an agent.
Wow.
So
that truly is a Cinderella story.
It really was. She fairy godmothered in there at a time when we were sort of exhausted. We didn't know if we could keep, if you want to self-publish books at a certain level of quality, I mean, you have to be a publisher. You can't just, shortchange that. And we were tired and it was so much work. So this was the time we needed someone to step in, and she just made that text message, and it set off this quickly escalating chain of events that turned into this.
Wow,
so that is why it's dedicated to her.
That is very cool. The divine Miss Bev. You should all follow Beverly Jenkins.
Everybody should be reading Beverly Jenkins. If you don't, she should be, you know.
Yeah, do it now.
Everything that she's ever written. She's amazing. Her romances are like...
Her historicals are my favorites.
They are basically the hugs that we all need in 2020.
Yes.
And the hope that we need in 2020, that you can live through bad times and, you know, work with your community and love your people, and you're going to get through, and you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So.
All messages. Yep. All messages we need right now. And getting through these times, both of you have been doing major creative projects. I mentioned in the bio the handmade jewelry, which Donna, you are actually wearing right now.
No, I took them off because they were brushing up against my earbuds in a very annoying fashion. But yeah, I've got some. Well, yeah, you can't really see them very well, but just my little dangly earrings. I made these like half an hour before an event that I had one day. I want to make some that are better, but yeah, that was fun. But we do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we started. I started stress crafting bracelets pretty much at the end of 2016 because I needed some sort of outlet. And then I had like 40 bracelets, and then Donna started doing them, and then we had like 100 bracelets. So we opened an Etsy store. And in the last 4 years of our stress crafting, we've sold like 2,500 pieces of jewelry.
Wow!
Just, you know, on the side of our that's our second job, I guess, now.
Okay, what's the name of your Etsy store? I have to write it down.
It is called The Broken Circle, which is the bar in our Beyond series where the bootleggers hang out. We sold like themed jewelry with our characters a lot at first, but then we just sort of started making things, and I'm probably going to start selling acrylic pour paintings on there now.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. My big sister started doing that, and it seems to be a big thing right now that everybody's doing. And
it is so much fun. Like, I love to watch the videos, or I'll go on Instagram and just get on the acrylic pour tag and like stream watching all these beautiful videos of the paint just falling out. But it's actually fun to do. You just have to get, you know, some sort of medium in your paint and mix it together, and there's all these different methods. I'm really into pouring it into a funnel right now and then letting the funnel pour the paint on there. But, you know, I love watching, like, just Google it on YouTube. There's so many beautiful videos. It's very soothing. We need to be soothed. Today of all days, probably, you know, it's
like that, the TikToks that were going around the other day with the, there's some game where you like watch them putting the pigments into like cans of paint before they mix them up, and you have to try to guess like what the final color of the paint will be based on the pigments going in and stuff. And there's this guy on TikTok who is like, okay, there's some blue and there's a lot of red. There's a little bit of green. Is this going into a white base, or is this a clear base? What is this? Oh my God, I'm freaking out. And so, you know, he's been right a couple of times. He gets very excited.
The color that he thinks it is, the background of his TikTok. And then they reveal the color and he freaks out, and there's a whole thread of them on there. I wish I could remember his name. It was amazing.
Yeah, I don't remember it either off the top of my head, but the TikTok paint guy.
Yeah. So is doing the paint as soothing as watching the videos, or is it sometimes
it is in a very different way. Like it's messy. It's so messy. I've got like these big cardboard things on folding tables where I'm just like drying all these like various paintings that I've done. So sometimes I just don't have the energy to get all the supplies out. So I just go on YouTube and I watch. And it's beautiful. And, you know, Also, you get to have a little flambe torch that you use. So fire is fun.
Right. In the right circumstances.
Yes.
Fire is fun. Fire can be fun. I want to open up, we don't have any questions yet, but I want to remind everybody as we open this up to questions from the audience. Where was the link here? Yes, if you are watching on Facebook Live or YouTube and you want to ask questions, download the Southern Festival Books app or visit the streaming site via the link at www.humtn.org/SFB. Those are our links. So back to the arts and crafts, because I'm fascinated by this. Is it helpful? Is it a hindrance when you're writing? Can it get in the way, or is it soothing? Like, how does that work with the writing?
It doesn't usually get in the way. I mean, it's normally something that we do to occupy ourselves because as I said, we don't trade like the manuscripts back and forth necessarily. So when we are writing, we usually are both like involved. We both have to be, and sometimes there are things, like my kids have appointments, or, Bree has the sniffles, or, like stuff happens. And so, we can't always be writing when we want to be. And so then it becomes something where, we're sort of occupying ourselves when we can't be writing. But at least for me, it's never really something that is like, I could be writing right now, but I think I'd rather go, make some pendants. It's like, it doesn't really work out that way. It's always the writing is.
Yeah, I use it as like a way to think about stories. A lot of my plotting, I swear it's very subconscious. I get like a bunch of ideas and then they sort of rattle around in my head until the right one comes out. And so I will go and do art for like a couple hours and sort of I call it the grinder run in the background until it, sifts through and finds the correct thing for me. So that's something I do a lot, especially the paint. The paint is sort of fun to, pour while you're thinking about plot problems or how to pull off this action scene that you need to make dramatic and awesome.
I think the key thing about like, particularly with, the Etsy store, we don't have it open all the time. We just open it up occasionally and we don't sell anything in it that we haven't already made. So those are two key things. We don't have it open all the time and only things that are already made, so that we're never in a position where we have to drop something and make an item because someone ordered it. So that could very easily encroach on so many things. But, we've chosen to approach it in a way where it can be secondary and remain secondary without,
And also remain relaxing. Like, I joked and called it a second job, but I don't actually want a second job.
Yeah.
It's not that second job because that's soothing to me. And if I, make it a job, then I won't be soothed by it anymore.
You have very high energy dogs, and I have not very high energy dogs, cats, and chickens, but all of them put together are extremely time consuming, and 2 kids. So, we don't have time for second jobs. It needs to stay a relaxing hobby.
That's good. That's good. And talking about time, Bree, I wanted to ask, because a friend of mine was following your custom designed notebooks and planners, because you have a specific way of planning, and I wanted you to talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so I have ADHD, which is, among other things, it is a lot about time blindness, and also a really inability to, to focus very well and like to keep doing things sometimes. So planners are sort of, I need them to organize my time, but also I abandon them. And then when I have like 17 pages of like blank pages staring at me, I get demoralized. I hide from them. So one of the things that I did was that I went to this place. I searched everywhere and I found this website called Agendio, AGENDIO.com. And they let you customize planners and notebooks. And I mean, when I say customize, I mean, you can put in however many pages of all these different spreads you design. And so I basically, for the last 4 years, have been on a quest to design my perfect planner. I actually have it here.
Ooh, yes, please. I would like
to
visual.
show you my do all the things planner.
Wow.
So for me, this is something that's kind of called a priority matrix, basically, where I have things like, this is where I put everything that I think of first in the brain dump. And then I have things that are urgent over here and things that are important, but not urgent. Things I don't want to forget, but that I don't have to do right away. And this is not something that has time on it, as you can see. This was this year's adjustment, was that I got rid of the idea of putting days or weeks or anything in there. It's just a to-do list that I use until I run out of space. And then I migrate stuff to the next page. So if I set it down for 2 months because the apocalypse got me down, it's not judgmental when I pick it back up. So yeah, and I actually have a couple different sections. I made, a place to put word counts. I made a place to organize projects.
Oh, wow.
So I've been designing all sorts of stuff. I have a self-care thing, which I've tragically, you can see how self-care in 2020 is going. Not so great.
There's nothing on it, Bree.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, but that's been my quest for every year. I order myself a new planner. And I may not have to do it this year because I'm not going to run out because there's no time in this one. So no time. Yay. I freed myself from weekly layouts. But if you do like weekly layouts, they will do customized daily, weekly, monthly. I sound like I'm an advertisement, but I really love them.
No, this is good. And for those of us who have had to change our lifestyles for this year, that sort of nebulous fit your life into these boxes is kind of helpful. I have surrounded myself with to-do lists suddenly, and your planners kind of sound right up my alley.
I honestly feel a little bit I've always had this time blindness and this being adrift in time. And I told my therapist in April that it was very disconcerting because I use other people who are normal about time to sort of ground myself. But suddenly everybody is adrift in time with me.
Yeah.
And so I'm better at coping at it because it's my life. But also I feel like everybody I know is sort of experiencing some of these drawbacks of ADHD where time is bending and stretching, and vanishing, and then dragging out forever. And
yeah,
it is a rough thing to deal with.
Yeah, it's a big.
You haven't spent your whole life developing coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
And it's good that we can turn to you in these times of need for someone who has
true.
This path. So thank you for that.
If anybody ever needs the priority matrix is something that is life-changing to me. And there's a YouTube channel called How to ADHD. And Jessica, the lady who runs it, is fabulous and entertaining, and she's the one who did a video on priority matrices, the priority matrix that I love. And she has lots of videos that I honestly think don't just help, people who have ADHD, but creative people who have to deal with a lot of unusual scheduling. I mean, we're kind of a little adrift in time.
Yeah. If
you think about it with the way our schedules work and we're working on books that are going to come out in 2021, so it's not helped right now, that whole thing. But, so yeah, it's a great channel.
That's fantastic. Ooh. We do have a question. We have a question from Alicia. How do you decide who is writing which character? Do you both have personality types that you usually choose?
We actually divide them up. It's kind of, I have to sort of backflip into this question because the characters don't actually exist when we decide to write them. We divide them up at the beginning, at the outset. Like we'll take, let's say we're writing like a romance that has like, a hero and a heroine. We'll divide them up. And usually, frankly, I want to say that it's some sort of like artistic process, but usually it's a hot potato. I wrote the last hero, you have to write this one, is like literally how it goes.
I wrote 2 in a row. Take it.
I already wrote 2 heroes this year. You've got to write one. You've got to write this one. So, or if like one of us very particularly wants to do like a certain type of story, like a, bodyguard and princess story or whatever, then we might like bargain that. We might be like, I'll even write the hero. We've got to do this story. So that's usually what we'll do. It's hot potato. And so then we decide, okay, well, what sort of story do we want to tell? What sort of relationship do we want to have? Who do these people need to be? And so we'll start from like ground zero, sort of like building them up, not just in like, forming the romantic relationships, crafting them into the sort of people who would be complementary to one another, but also everyone around them. Because, romance is very specific sometimes, I think, in that a lot of people tend to latch on to secondary characters because those are going to be your, like, main characters of your following books. So, everybody kind of picks their favorite, and they're like, I can't wait for so-and-so's book, So we really have to end up, just sort of crafting them out of nowhere. And that's a really helpful process to do with like 2 different people, because not only will they most necessarily have, a distinct voice, but also because we get to, discuss every single bit of what makes them really, work together. And that's helpful because I think sometimes, when you're like trying to create 2 people who are really complementary, like kind of on your own, there are things that you miss that you can't miss if you're having to explain every single thing about someone to someone else. So it ends up being pretty helpful there being 2 of us when we're going through this process, because we get to ask questions, and those questions are very helpful. Like that's how you really drill down into who someone is when somebody is sitting there asking you, who are they? So
yeah. I will say there are some types of characters, like I tend to write grumpy, reluctant heroes who are the leaders, the dads. Team Dad. I write most of the Team
Dad.
Dads.
Team Dad.
Yeah. And like I like to write hackers. I like to write computer techies because I'm a techie, so
it would do no good for me to try to write a hacker because I can't write a hacker. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I make write doctors.
Yeah, if there's anybody who is like a medic or, anything like that, then that's usually something that, I take on. I'm trying to think beyond that if there's like any particular. Yeah, I think it's just like, I don't want to, this is not in any way like denigrating or anything, but like, the disaster humans is like a very you thing.
Yes,
like
I disaster people.
The lovable, adorable disaster people are definitely like a you thing. I tend to do quiet people who are very like deep, which is weird because I'm not quiet at all. But yeah, like it.
Human, so that works.
Well, but you're not a grumpy team dad.
No,
not a grumpy team
usually.
Dad. So. Usually, sometimes. But yeah, I think we do have kind of like our favorites, the things that we do, but we do try to trade off every now and then because it does get exhausting sometimes, like, so we're like, no, this time you're gonna do the grumpy, taciturn hero. It's your turn. Take one for the team.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Totally fair. I'm going to point out that the Humanities Tennessee folks are posting the Parnassus links in the chat, but is there anywhere else that you both have signed books?
We don't at the moment. I probably should reach out and see if we can find someone. This is our first traditionally published book, actually. So it's the first one we've worked with bookstores for. And this is a weird time to be working with bookstores for the first time. So we have, I know that for our second book, we'll have pre-orders for with book plates and stuff from the Rit Bodice, which is California's romance exclusive bookstore, who are awesome people. And they just sell lots and lots of romances, and we love to work with them. So,
okay, we have a question from Herren. Do you outline or plot? How do you handle changes to the plot that might come up as you write?
We do both.
Yeah.
We outline the big stuff, the character stuff. When we start a series, we know who all of the characters in the series are going to be, what their relationships are going to be, what their conflicts are going to be, and what they need to learn. And when I say everyone, I say if we start a 9-book series, we know that now for everybody.
Yeah.
But we have no idea what's going to happen in their books. Zero idea. We are going to start, this third book, and we have a vague idea. Very, very vague, bad stuff's going to happen to this person. But, we don't plot, I'm
excited for the bad stuff to happen to this person.
More than a few scenes ahead. So, actually, that's because if the change comes, we run with it.
Yeah.
If something comes up and it's ooh, this would be better, plot goes in the garbage.
Yeah. We're not married to it. We're but why don't, sometimes we will literally have this entire super complicated thing plotted out, and then one of us will just sit there, usually over I don't know, donuts or tacos or something. We'll sit there and be wait. Why don't they just do this? And then we're oh God, why don't they just do that? And then they do that. So we don't try and work around that. If something else that's better or more expedient or will work as a better story comes up, then we're okay, I guess this is what we're doing now, because that is the most malleable thing. People ask us about plot a lot, and it's I don't want to say we don't care about plot, but we don't care about plot.
We care about the story, and the plot is just how you get the story accomplished.
Yeah.
So the story, we know what the story is going to be, but we don't know exactly how we're going to get it there. So
yeah. The exception to this, I will say, is that once we've gotten to the middle of a book, at that point, we usually sit down and we make a big just list of everything else that we want to accomplish, everything we need to tie up, every other thing we want to make sure gets into the book. And then we try and manipulate it into some sort of mega outline for the entire rest of the book. Because usually once we've reached the middle, the rest of it is not going to change all that much. Or if it does, it's going to be little things, because we've already set everything into motion. So usually at that point, we can actually outline the rest of the book. But no, the first half of a book, first 50,000 words or so, is the Wild West. Anything could happen. Woo! Anything. We actually, with the second book in the series, our editor said something sort of kind of, I think she almost meant it in an offhand sort of, you might want to, pay attention to this thing that, is happening. And we were you know what? We're just going to change this completely. And so we just changed the book completely.
Nice.
And we mean added a new character. Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, big deal. So
fantastic. Then it's good that you both work together so well. You really have that. This has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you both this evening. I hate to wrap this up, but it sounds like we're going to need to. Thank you both. Thank you, audience members. Thank you to everyone who asked a question. Thank you to Humanity.
Thank
you. Yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you.
Incredibly fun.
By my roaring fire.
Yes, I love your fire.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And your piggy. Or is that a unicorn pig?
It's a pigicorn.
Pigicorn. Okay.
Excellent.
So it is a unicorn pig.
It is.
Both worlds.
All right.
When you see a unicorn pig, you just have to buy it.
It looks very soft and cuddly.
So soft. So soft. I will remind everyone that Deal. I was going to say Dance with the Devil. Deal with the Devil.
That's book 3.
Oh, Dance with the
Yes.
Devil is book 3. Fantastic. Prophetic.
Yes.
Deal with the Devil is available. It can be purchased through the links posted in the chat, or you can visit Parnassus Books online festival store at parnassusbooks.net/SFB for Southern Festival of Books. Thank you both, Donna and Bree, for joining us.
Thank you,
everyone.
Aletha.
Appreciate you
Thank
so much.
you, everyone. Bye.